Welcome into another edition of Two Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Baxter Colburn.
And this is Simon Provan.
How are we doing today, Simon?
I'm doing great, Baxter. How about yourself?
Not too bad. I got a little bit more sleep than I usually
that's
do.
Good.
So
good.
I'm glad that I'm not looking at you through tired eyes finally.
I do got to say I'm a little flustered with my Everton club right now.
I would be flustered too if I was an Everton fan. That's why I'm not an Everton fan. But
well,
also
Roberto
I'm an
Martinez
fan,
comes out and says that they are not underachieving this year, and but yet at the same time he talks about all the talent the team has.
What does he define as underachieving?
Well, he's either being dishonest or he's disillusioned. I'm not sure.
I've heard rumors that he might get reassigned next year.
Well, I think it's getting to be that point.
Would you get rid of him at this point?
I think you'd have to, with the talent that the team does have, and they're still on the bottom of the table.
Getting rid of Tim Howard this summer, too, but, I mean, that's not much of a loss right now for Everton fans, honestly, though. Well, we're excited to be here for another edition of Two Up Front. We've got some exciting guests coming up for you today. We'll be joined later on in the program by VAVEL USA editor Chris Blakely to help us recap the exciting opening weekend of NWSL. I know I actually was able to watch 3 out of the 5 games and forgot how much I missed the league as well. It was a lot of exciting action. So we'll talk to Chris later on in the program, and I will be joined in just a little bit as well by Marquette University head coach Louis Bennett as well, too. So for our local soccer spotlight, as we like to do as well.
Yeah, and we'll have his assistant here as well, Sean Hughes, who he's going to talk a little bit about MLS versus soccer in England versus soccer in Australia.
That'll be a fun topic. Yeah, so we're excited to have both of those gentlemen join us here in just a little bit. But we want to take a minute to remind all of you that you can find us on Fridays on Sports Radio America from 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time by going to sportsradioamerica.com or tuning in on the TuneIn app as well. And you can also always find us on demand on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and on Spreaker.com as well.
Yeah, and of course we're on Facebook, Two Up Front. We're on Twitter at Two Up Front Soccer. He's at Baxter Colburn. I'm at Simon Provan. You can email us, twoupfrontsoccer@gmail.com as well.
Yes, indeed. So we are excited to get about to all the soccer action. We've got some MLS news to get to a little bit later. I'm curious to plug your brain a little bit about Simon with Don Garber saying, and we're going to expand even farther now. So
yes.
We'll see what happens with that aspect of it. So, but we are going to bring in our guest right now in our first segment for Marquette University, head coach Louis Bennett and his assistant Sean. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. How are we doing today?
Good. Thanks, Baxter. Thanks, Simon, for having me on. Us on. That's
Absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely. Well, we are excited. For those that follow the soccer scene here in the Milwaukee area, Marquette is the name. You get an opportunity to figure out, what it's like to be a Golden Eagle. I know growing up when I was a young kid, I had aspirations of playing for the Golden Eagles and then realized that I enjoy doing broadcasting a little bit more as well at the end of the day and realize that's where my true talent actually lied, to be more honest about it. But we're excited to have you guys here. Such a historic program, especially in the time that you've been there, Louis. Just talk a little bit about your tenure here so far with the Golden Eagles.
Well, obviously, I think from the day I walked in, I had an idea of how we wanted to play the game, how we wanted to represent the school, the brand of soccer, and with whom were we going to be able to do that, and what we would need to do to achieve that. College soccer is a moving target because every year you're going to lose your more experienced and possibly you're more dedicated, or certainly you're more mature players, so then you have to rebuild. So if you don't have a brand or a style, sometimes it becomes a huge roller coaster. And I thought that probably the first four years we were trying to stabilize the program in the mold of our vision. Once we stabilized the program, we managed to put some really good seasons together, and obviously, as you said, we had one of the best seasons, or the best season we've ever had in history, winning a big East tournament and league, and then going on to the Sweet 16, get beaten by Virginia, etc., etc. Had a little blip last year, with big injuries and stuff, and we've brought in a lot of people now, new people, 2 foreign, 3 local, early. So we've had them in the spring. Still with the same brand, but trying to retune things and readapt things so that we look like ourselves, but with slightly different personnel. I use the analogy only yesterday is we kind of give guys an off-the-rack suit, and it would be up to them to make the suit feel good, so you've got to customize it.
Oh, and I think it's a good analogy.
Well, it's a mistake for us to think that we can customize a man's suit. I don't know exactly how he likes it fit. I mean, if you have the money, you go and have a suit made for you, right? And you tell the tailor exactly what it is. But when you bring all these guys in, we give them a blue suit, a blue or a gold suit.
Hey.
And then they have to say, well, I got this suit, but I want it to be mine. I want it to be I want it to be blue. I want it to be gold. I want to be part of that theme. I want to be part of that brand. I appreciate what they do. I like it. You don't go to Marquette and want to play territorial. You don't want to play, up to a target, scramble and run, kick and run. You can't come to Marquette and want to play that because you won't get a suit that fits that.
Exactly.
So over the last couple of years, we've had the opportunity, as coaches move on. I mean, Steve Bodie moved on just this recently. We've had a great opportunity to bring in other coaches, and Marquette has been really good about us helping find stuff, and finding Sean, who was a head coach in a Division II program, is now opened, I think, our horizons to bringing people in, not just local, although that is the focus. We try to get the best local players here, and then the regional, and then the national, and then the international. And I think Sean is helping us tighten that net loop on all of the pre-mentioned.
Absolutely. Well, you talked a little bit about your spring season so far. I mean, you've had a couple of games already under your belt too. So, as a head coach, what are you looking at with your guys of what they've done so far? You still have a couple of games remaining. You've got 2 games left. You take on the Milwaukee Torrent this Saturday, and then you play the Badgers of UW-Madison on April 30th as well. But you've gotten a couple of games under your belt so far. So, from a head coaching perspective, you haven't gotten your new freshmen in or any of that stuff yet really for next year, but how do you feel about your guys so far after the season you had to where you're at right now?
Good. I think the first game we play is in, was in February, and it's basically we're doing a futsal program, and then we go to play down in Chicago on a full field. So our expectation is that we would just get our outdoor feet indoor.
Yeah.
Sounds crazy, doesn't it? You get your outdoor feet indoor.
That's true.
But that was a show and tell. And we had to know, and we knew we would be good at some things and not good at others. Didn't do anything tactically. And then the next set of games, we had 2 games on one day. One was in 3 feet of snow, but we played, and that showed us quite a bit. And then it cleared up by the evening. So we played Green Bay in the morning, and then Parkside in the evening, irrespective of the results, which were quite favourable to us. What I was more impressed with was we do have 5 new guys in now, and we're bringing another 5 in August. The fusion between the guys we had, for me, there was a positive feel. We talked a lot about our spirit and, the courage to do the right thing, and our soul. And the spirit of the soul you have to develop because, like I said, you lose some of the major contributors to that. And that was pretty good. And then we played UWM, which was a little spicy, a little aggressive.
To be expected.
But it's exactly what we needed. Because, again, it was on not a beautiful day, and neither team would allow anything. And we used 8 freshmen, either freshmen that played in the fall, and then the new guys.
Wow, okay.
And so we looked really,
give you a true test to see what you had.
Absolutely. We looked unfamiliar with the personnel, but I saw signs, and the other coaches, I think Sean would agree, I saw signs of Marquette, even though it was with unfamiliar faces, which is a good step. I mean,
absolutely, yeah, that's what you want to see.
Yeah, Sean, I'd like to bring you in here rather than just having you listen to us chat. But you come from a Division II program, and you've been with a couple of Division II programs that are pretty much powerhouses in Division II soccer, college-wise. You were at Quincy as a full-time assistant, and I'm reading here as I'm talking to you, trying to sound smart, and Maryville University. I don't know if you've had enough time to see the biggest difference between Division II college soccer versus Division I, but I'd love for you to speak on that.
Yeah, Division II is maybe the schedule is not as intense in terms of the resources and the ability to bring guys in the morning and then also in the afternoon. Obviously, you were working with high-level players here at Division 1-2. The Division 2 model that I was used to was 2 games a week also, so you play Friday, Sunday, Friday, Sunday. We're in a position where we don't have that, and the schedule that we've tried to make allows us to concentrate more to build players through the week. Sometimes at Division 2 you're just maintaining, you're just patching things up and then playing the games. But what we're looking at, really is getting the schedule as a periodization technique to allow us to perform our best every weekend, every Saturday or every Wednesday. And the resources and learning from, obviously, Louis, Marcelo is already there. The standard so far has opened my eyes a little bit in terms of, video analysis, the scientific part that is more associated with a higher level. Division 2, you're bringing players in. The focus is a little bit more balanced in terms of what we can do with them. But so far, I've really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to getting into the muck and bullets of the upcoming fall.
It's one thing you brought up was player development, and obviously that's a hot topic right now with MLS, with the U.S. national team, and where does the college game fit in that? So I'm wondering if we can broaden our horizons, not just speaking about Marquette, but just college soccer as a whole, where you see college soccer fitting in that equation.
Well, it's hard to justify that. First and foremost, college soccer now is not what college soccer was in the 80s and 90s. So a lot of the experienced players that are in the MLS that may be passing judgment quite rightly on what was going on in those is not going on now. We do have a spring season. We do. We can coach these guys. Is it limited? Absolutely. And is it perfect? No, it's not. So I feel there is, because of the tradition and because of the product that you produce at the end. I mean, let's not forget Harry Shipp and Dylan Powers were MLS Rookies of the Year. Well, they spent 4 years of their life at institutions. The institution is a 4-year school. And now you've got a well-rounded human being that is also a professional soccer player. I would probably say the maintenance of those players in terms of preparation and focus and having a job is not the same as someone that might not have gone there. Now, I've got to watch, obviously, I want to use the words correctly. I'm a proponent of having us in a split season. There's been a lot of rumors, there's been a lot of talk.
Yeah, we've heard those talks for a while.
And that would allow us to continue the periodization that we have of playing one game a week, with just maybe in a season only have a midweek game, so that the squad that we carry could be utilized with greater efficiency, and we wouldn't be putting guys at a little bit of an injury risk. I mean, we're doing a lot about chronic load. When you go from doing nothing to a lot, you've got a chance of being injured.
Oh, yeah.
Well, when you could never prepare for a game, really, Friday, Sunday. I mean, the physiologists are saying, hey, if you play a soccer game, it takes you 48 hours to recover from that. And if you play a game within that 48 hours, it actually takes you 72 hours to fully recover from 2 games.
Wow.
So, I mean, we play Wednesday and Saturday. It really it's not so smooth in terms of the economics and the actual logistics of planning a season, but we've actually dropped down to 16 games now. So in order to do that, if that was gone and we could practice, and do our full week, we could give, the rest with the recovery sessions, and we would be able to form a model that would be similar to what the pros would prefer. Then you've got we could be fully part of the pyramid, and we wouldn't need. We would probably forego some of that battering that we get from the professional programs. Some people do some people accept and do appreciate what college does, and I think that's an ever-growing thing. But I see a day that if college doesn't change or doesn't move to a more expansive season, we may land up losing some of the best homegrown. I mean, we've got 7 homegrown players, potential homegrown players on our team, and they've chosen to come to college because they didn't think they'd be picked up, and they wanted a good education,
absolutely, yeah,
etc., all the benefits of playing college.
And that's one thing you hear too a lot about. I think athletes forget about it, especially if they're very talented. They play professional, and then they're done by 30, 35 if you're fortunate to have your body stay in shape that long, and then it's like, oh, I still have 40, 50, 60 years of my life left. What am I going to do now?
And MLS is not in a place where every player is making millions of dollars.
No, exactly.
Where you can be set up for life.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I would have never. I mean, I played a short, sharp, battering ram of a career for 7 years indoors, and there was no way I wouldn't have to work. I mean, afterwards. And I think you're right, Simon, that the MLS, you're not going to make a fortune.
Not yet, at least.
Not yet. I mean, there may be a few, but I don't know if we're going to get to that point right now. I mean, we're trying to make a league on a continent. You know how difficult that is.
Yeah.
And the
on
travel
and
the expense
on top of it.
On a huge continent. Now, television contracts, etc., etc., and I mean, I'm so proud of how U.S. soccer has grown. I mean, when I came, when I was signed by Kansas City, I couldn't find soccer on the television, in the newspaper. There was one. I think it was Toby Giles, Made in America, and it was a German, and I'd never seen German soccer read, league soccer coming from England, and it was maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks.
You mentioned that before.
I think, Simon, wasn't it on like
it was on
public
PBS.
Radio?
Yes, it was.
And now, and obviously going through a period of when there was no professional outdoor soccer, I had to play indoor soccer. Now there's an array of leagues right now that you can, if that's your fancy, you can go in. But none of them you can justify, if you do get a chance to go to college, or very few of them, in not going to college first. Maybe if you're number one draft choice or you're the top player in MLS, homegrown, maybe that's the choice to go to college, or not to go to college and go. But for, I would say still 95%, what are you doing? You are padding your back pocket with a degree that will help you should things not go as planned, because you're not in control of your destiny.
Is it? And I don't want to get you in trouble. Is it a matter of just the NCAA not understanding the nuances of soccer? Because they basically run college football like the NFL runs football. They basically run basketball like the NBA. Well, they do,
because, I mean, even looking at this, I mean, Turner and TBS and CBS Sports just signed an $8.8 billion contract just for the NCAA tournament.
For
so
the
they
tournament
can have
itself,
the rights for the next, I think it's 15 years. So, I mean, there's millions and billions of dollars of money out there, but at the same time, it's for the sports that are popular.
I think the evolution of soccer up to 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, when the MLS started, didn't give you a big broad picture of what a soccer player does. Now we've got that. I think the NCAA is investigating what's being said, and the people that deal with the medical aspects, student welfare, they are listening. They are listening, and I think that in the next couple of years there's going to be a pressure point where people are going to realize, hey, if you want soccer and you want quality soccer, we might want to have to spread it out. And my hope would be that they would choose to do 2 seasons instead of take more games away and just play it in the spring, because we would then probably, in my belief, chop off another 10% or 11% of guys that really should go to college first. Would probably not do it and then just do part-time.
And that's ultimately the worry, right, is that college soccer does become irrelevant. And you don't want that. And we have a unique opportunity in this country, unlike England, where you've got basically just the academies. I mean, from what I understand, you don't go to college to try to get noticed for soccer. No. But here, that culture still exists, and I think we need to take advantage of it.
I think one of the things with it too is if you look at the NFL model and the NCAA college football, the seasons are pretty comparable, in terms of the length. Now, if you look at professional soccer with a college season, the professional soccer season can run 8 to 10 months. A college season, unfortunately, is still pigeonholed into one semester. It's either a fall or a spring sport. And with that, really, it ties the hands of the coaches. You're trying to develop players, whether it's a homegrown talent that maybe at 18 isn't quite ready to make the step into the MLS, but you're hoping that after 4, maybe 4.5 years in a college program, if he takes the right path, does the right things, that the chance is still there at 22, 23, whatever it might be. And I feel that when you compare apples to apples, if you try and pigeonhole college soccer into one semester and you expect to produce players that can play in MLS or play for a national team, when the rest of the world is going 8 to 10 months in that same time, you're really holding yourself back.
No, I'd agree with you on that one too, and that's one thing that we always see. I mean, you talk about guys that like Freddie Adu, that was 14, all of a sudden he didn't even go to college, and he was hailed and lauded like, oh, the best new thing since Pele signed him. Or even you see guys like Christian Pulisic right now, who's out. He's 17 years old, from Hershey, Pennsylvania, now playing for the Bundesliga at Borussia Dortmund. And I think Americans especially are just so hungry for that next Landon Donovan, that next Clint Dempsey, and it's like, we've got all these guys that are playing Division I soccer. Why aren't we producing more talent? Why aren't we producing more talent? When we flip it over, and I know this is, like you said, apples to apples at times though too, but you'll even look at the women's game. They have almost mastered that, look, you play 4 years of college, you go through the draft, you play in the NWSL if you're really good, you play for the national team. And we've seen so many ladies do that now, up-and-comers like Morgan Bryan, and even Tobin Heath and Alex Morgan as well, Sam Ewis. You see these ladies that are going through the system, and I know the men's game is vastly larger, and I get that, but At the same time, though, it's interesting to see, especially in a big continent like you mentioned, Louis, like America. It's hard to. I think the big thing we always hear though too is like, I feel like we're missing people. We're missing people.
I think we are missing people. But I also think that there are some unbelievably creative coaches at the college level that use the time they have with the players so efficiently. I mean, I'm really surprised that Tony Sana, Brian McBride. These are people that have gone 4 years at an institution, and they were the pioneers to going over, some of the pioneers, going over to Germany to play with Tony Sana, and then Brian McBride playing and not just playing in the EPL, being a pretty significant player.
Absolutely. He's got a bar named after him, for crying out loud.
Well, it takes a lot for that, yeah.
But if you look, that there are some... Even some mentors of mine were college coaches because, as I mentioned, the spring is not a dead period for us. We actually teach.
Yeah.
And that's the... I'm talking about split season. There are some coaches that would miss the teaching period of the college setup. We get to strip it right down to the basics. I mean, I was listening to David Check. It was describing about preparation, and so that you can prepare for moments and difficult moments over time. You see again and again, and that gives experience. And if anything new does come up, what you have then is to rely on your basic training instincts. You know, if you see something new, okay, I haven't had this before, you rely on your basic training instincts. That's what we do in the spring. We strip it all down, and if someone's got a technical, tactical, maybe a mental, emotional deficiency, or what we see as a weakness, we get time to work on that as a full-time guy. Sometimes they won't allow you to work on those things too deeply. You've got to do it on your own.
Yeah.
You're either good enough or you're not. And if you're not good enough, you get passed down the levels. That's where college can help the late developer. You know, and I was a late developer. I think in my career, I was a much, much better player. You know, when I'd gone out of my teens and gone through puberty and had all that thing going on, that college gave me an unbelievably breath of fresh air. There were fewer questions that I had about myself, about was I going to be either big enough or was I going to be tough enough, and that really gave me a buffer. And college, given even more tools in terms of time, you will see so many people that we don't catch. One of the leading goal scorer in the English Premier League nearly slipped through the net. Let's not forget that. Jamie Vardy was playing such a low level.
Right.
I think when Sean left the UK, he and I had both played at a higher level than Jamie Vardy was starting.
That's incredible.
It is unbelievable that the decision in most European countries is made, 16, potentially 18. You can come to college at 18 and you can grow maybe still. Physically, you can change a lot within 18 to 22. And I think that's one part of the model that does really help, because you're bringing guys in with still the opportunity to become a soccer player, professional soccer player, but they're also getting the education part too to fall back on. And I don't know if the European system really advocates that so much. A lot of guys that are 18 are cut out on the heap, and you're out of luck, basically.
Exactly. Right. And that's what we see so many times in all, I think, college sports, especially if they were considered a good player in high school too. If they go and they play that freshman year and they don't get as much playing time as they think that they deserve, and they're like, wow, coach obviously doesn't value me as a player. I don't want to, I'm going to go somewhere else, and then they take a step down or whatever. But it's those players that actually are willing to put in that time and that effort and be like, look, I don't care if I play a minute or if I play every single game. I want to be here. I want to get better. And I'm sure guys like that, for you, Louis, are very important that you want on your team.
Absolutely. We can soften the blow of the first big disappointment because you've got school and you've got trying to be something bigger than yourself. A lot of times when we get players in our model, it's a pay-to-play model in a lot of cases.
Sure. Yeah.
The first big disappointment is they don't make a travel squad.
Yeah.
Or they're 28th on the roster when they thought they would be, 1 to 11.
Yep.
We can soften that blow because it's not you're not good enough and sorry, we're bringing in the next batch of young professionals.
Yep.
It's, okay, let's work with you as long as you're prepared to accept that and as long as you'll be able to go. We don't have that same, if you bring in an MLS guy and he's been with an MLS program, they push players down to their lower ranks all the time and bring them up. The the homegrown guys.
Yep.
So that they have probably had a disappointment. But my worry sometimes is about those disappointments that you have, you know.
Exactly.
And the time to grow. I mean, obviously, Simon's clan, the Provan clan, all playing college,
yep.
and they went through the bumps and bruises and had success through the college system, and all had opportunity to go on. And for me is okay. So that's a model that don't rip the model up and throw it away.
Exactly.
Understand it, and let's face it. Even the best and brightest, there are some parents that will say, you need a college degree, as I say, so if you fall on your derriere, you've got that big pad and it's called my degree.
Exactly.
Which you won't have.
I think just to add to Louis there as well, you know, the guys that you're bringing into college, especially at the level that we're looking, they're usually the best players within their team to start with. So now you're piecing it together. They understand straight off the bat that, hey, there's going to be 28 guys. You might have been the superstar in your club, your high school, wherever you were playing. Now you've got to compete. And before anything's laid out to them and they get to become part of the team, they understand from the outset that nothing's going to be given to them.
Exactly.
And if we don't get that from them, they're probably not the kind of player that we want to bring into the program, because it's not going to work. So it's really important that when we're recruiting those guys, they understand no matter how good they are at the club level, the high school level, you got to earn the spot. And when you have 28 guys doing that, the practice drives itself up and you improve as a group.
And not just 28 guys, but guys that have been there for 3 years already.
Absolutely.
The system.
Absolutely.
Yep, you're absolutely right. Well, Louis, before we let you go, Sean, I'm going to ask this of you as well, Sean. You've been around the Milwaukee soccer scene for a long time. You've got a very good understanding of what is going on. I'm curious to get your thoughts about this, and I'm only asking you this because you said I could ask you anything before you brought me on the air. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are about the consistent butting of heads of trying to bring a pro team to Milwaukee, because there are so many people that have the same idea, but they don't want to work together.
Okay,
and you've been around a long time, and you can phrase it however you want to, but I'm curious, as someone that's been around and seen a lot, what your thoughts are about that.
I don't believe the same problems that we've been butting heads on previously, 20 years ago, is the same as the issues we have now. I think we have a sustainability issue about bringing pro or multiple pro. Now, it is a different country. Will you figure how many pro clubs are in London? 7, 8, 9,
like
10,
that, yeah.
You know, and Premier League clubs. I believe it will I think we could sustain maybe a couple of levels if the sustainable model is such that you understand how many players you need, how many full-time players you need, whether they need to be on full-time salaries that they can take care of themselves, or it's a salary that you can take care of their families. So then you fit that model into, there's a league now that will sustain my pro team. Then if we want another pro team that wants to sustain MLS, we have to understand what does that require? How many fans do we need? What's the overall budget? And if you notice that the USL franchise that started off, I don't know, I think it started at 50,000, is a lot bigger now. I mean, I think it's maybe even 2 million plus. The NASL franchise, an MLS franchise now. I mean, the deal that David Beckham did, I guess, was really good because he gets he could sell his part of that franchise and make an additional 3 years or 4 years of his salary. So in Milwaukee, I think there is a coming together in a sense where there are factions that want a pro team, and I think that eventually we may see people that get paid X amount of dollars to do it, and people get a different, and I think there might be a blue and a red, side of town, but I think it's prime for sure. This city I believe can sustain a professional team model. What I do think should and could happen and would add to the sustainability is weaving in the community that will support it, so it is the top of the pyramid. And so at the top of the pyramid, if it were the most prestigious league you play in, and then maybe have 1 or 2 teams a fewer leagues low and a fewer leagues low, and I think that all the clubs would eventually come together, because without that, we're going to lose some of our best and brightest, and they're going to go overseas. And as you know, one of our top recruits, Andrej Novakovic, I supported him going for some training after committing to Marquette, and he had to go as far as Reading, England, and sign there for 3 years, where he could have signed on his own doorstep if there was something available.
Exactly.
But I think it's going to work. I'm not a pessimist. I'm an optimist. And you're right. I've been here since playing it in the 80s. I think it's going to work.
Sean, we promised you'd talk to us about differences.
Yeah.
MLS, England, Australia. Give us a 30-second breakdown.
That's quick.
Everything you've ever learned.
Yeah, everything I've ever known. England, obviously, has been more established. I think the MLS is coming up. Australia's probably a little bit further behind. Australia has the top flight, and then they have regional leagues below that make up the second tier. Obviously, you know a lot about the English structure. And as we were saying there earlier, I think the big thing in America is getting a pathway to pro for local players.
Excellent. Great.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much.
It's great, guys. Thanks very much
Thanks
for
having
us. Anytime.
Head coach of Marquette University, Louis Bennett, and his assistant, Sean Hughes, were here with us on Two Up Front. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we've got more exciting action for you. You're not going to want to miss it. You're listening to Two Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. Back here in the studio for another edition of Two Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Baxter Colburn.
And this is Simon Provan.
All right, Simon, let's take a look at the week that was in Major League Soccer. I know our team's on different sides of the result, and we actually get to play each other this week as well. So
that's right, yes.
I'm interested to see what happens with that. So let's take a look back at what happened in MLS this last weekend, starting with some exciting action that, as we know, took place on Wednesday evening. Colorado Rapids and Sporting Kansas City. Jermaine Jones, he's back. He scored a goal. He got an assist. They played in snow. And, of course, MLSsoccer.com is freaking out saying, he's back! I'm like,
of course.
Shut up.
Of course.
Shut up.
He wasn't the only one who scored his first goal for his club. We're also looking at Gashi got his first goal for the Colorado Rapids as well.
Yeah, very interesting there. Dom Dwyer, I think, cashed in on a goal as well, as he likes to do. But at the same time, or not Dom. It was Dom Dwyer. Yep.
Right. Yeah. So this is the first game, by the way. I think you were referring to.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
I'm
thinking of the two different games. So they played
double game week for Colorado.
That's right. They took on the Red Bulls in the snow. That's what it was. But either way, though, Colorado, they get 6 points out of 6 available points this week. That's a big,
huge,
big way to shoot them up the power rankings.
And for the fact that the first 3 points came in Sporting Kansas City's
not
an
easy place to win a game at, that's for sure. So congratulations to Colorado on that one. Jermaine Jones in that second game, obviously not that first game like we mentioned. FC Dallas, they put a beat down on Portland. They beat them 3-1. FC Dallas, they came back. They looked hot. They looked excited. And Portland not exactly looking the best, unfortunately.
No, they're not.
You have when you play 2 games in a week, you kind of have to pick and choose your battles at times, and I think maybe Portland chose to not battle this game.
I would disagree with that. I think FC Dallas is so good right now, and Portland is, they're trying to make their way through some injuries. Obviously, Darlington Nagbe being out is a huge one. As we talked about last show, I had thought that Porter would try to change formation up. He indeed did do that with a 4-2-3-1. Didn't work out too well in this game. It worked out a little bit better in their second game of the week. But Dallas came in with a plan. Urruti, of course, gets a goal against his own club.
Love it.
His old club, and FC Dallas took care of business.
I agree with you on that one. Looking forward, San Jose, they took down the Red Bulls 2-0. A good Earthquake side, continuing to do a good job overall. They would go the rest of the week, though, and they would lose their second game, though.
They would, but Fatai Alashe, who we had on the show last week, ended up getting a goal in this game as well. I had texted or twittered out to you, Baxter, every person that has come on the show, whether it was NWSL or now MLS, they went out and won their game that week.
They did. Sam Mewis scored a goal for her side, so I'm sure that was exciting, and now Fatai scored as well. So if you would like to be a guest on Two Up Front to either experience success in scoring or your team winning, the phone lines are open right now. You can come on and join us.
And Wondolowski, of course, with another goal on the season.
What he does.
He wish he did it with the national team, but he certainly knows how to do it with San Jose.
Do you wish he did it with the national team?
I wish anybody would with the national team.
I suppose. Okay, well, moving on from that, though, you look ahead to other games that took place. Finally getting into the normal ones. The Viernes de Football with LA Galaxy and the Houston Dynamo. Houston scoring immediately as soon as the game got underway, setting the tone early, thinking, wow, Shoopers, Houston, they are a good team. They're going to just train wreck the rest of the way through this game. And then the Galaxy were like, actually, Giovanni Dos Santos is
That's what I was going to say. I don't know if it was the Galaxy that thought that, but it was certainly Dos Santos who said, you know what? Let's win this game.
Exactly.
Let's
and Steven Gerrard actually looked like vintage Steven Gerrard in this game, too. The passes that he was making all across the field, he looked like the old Liverpool Steven Gerrard, where he was like, oh, what's that? You're 60 yards down the field, across field between two defenders. Boop, there's the ball. Go.
And, of course, Giassi Zard is also another tick on the score sheet.
The names were all out for the Galaxy, so a good victory, a needed victory for them against a team in the West like the Dynamo that had been thinking that they could do just about anything, honestly. So good for them to get that victory. Montreal took out Chicago, 2 incredible goals, one from I can never say his name. Do you know how to say his name? Oh my gosh.
You're asking the wrong
Kennedy
guy. I'd have to practice it.
Igbonanike, I think is how you say it. He had a beautiful curling chipped ball to the far post to open the scoring. Didier Drogba scored 6 minutes after coming into the game well.
And then one of the best players of the season so far, Piatti.
Beautiful goal in the 91st minute. Same basic goal, basically, as Igbonanike.
Yes, right.
Well, yes, that guy who scored, the Kennedy. We'll call him Kennedy, as he scored as well.
And let's not forget Dominic Oduro, who's also quietly having a great season.
Not for my fantasy team, he's not.
Well, he got 2 assists for you this week, unless you didn't play him. Of course you did.
Because he's not, whatever. He's one of those players you don't know what he's going to come from him.
I understand.
Trust me, he's annoying. He's very annoying.
Just like when you captained Diego Valeri, which I think both of us did.
Yeah.
And he gets a red card. Out of all the players, they get a red card.
Quality.
Diego Valeri.
Quality. Love it when that happens. Toronto FC, DC United, TFC squeaks away a win in a game that nobody really cared too much about.
No, but Giovinco gets back on the scoring sheet. That's important. DC United, they go from winning 4-0 last week to losing 1-0 now to Toronto, and this was in DC. How much longer does Ben Olsen have?
Longer. What DC doesn't have. There's nobody really to replace him. I don't feel like
Jason Kreis is still out. Jason Kreis, rather, is still out there.
I think that would be a step down in his overall career.
Well, I mean, right. I mean, he's with the national team program. He was out scouting Paraguay for Klinsmann this last week. I agree with you, but I'm just saying to say nobody is out there is not entirely true.
That is true. So Toronto gets another victory. They get to move up in the standings. They are now 4th in the standings with 8 points overall. Columbus and NYCFC. Columbus finally getting a much needed victory
at home against New York City, 3-2. So, bit of a fun game back and forth. I mean, through the whole game, you had a goal from the 7th minute and a goal in the 87th minute. That always tells a good story
of action,
what's going on
exactly. There. Justin Merrim got 2 assists in this game as well. Ethan Finley, Kai Kamara.
Kamara finally gets back on the board.
Sigh of relief being breathed. That's breathed, not breathed. Being breathed
right.
For Columbus Crew fans. But they're still in 9th place overall in the Eastern Conference.
Baxter, if there's one other person that I would love to bring on staff to 2 up front, is somebody just to make coffee.
Oh, that would be wonderful. We need an intern. Somebody.
And you know who else needs coffee? The New York Red Bulls.
They look atrocious. They lose 2-1 in the snow game.
This is the one you're talking about.
Snowmageddon. Yes.
So Jermaine Jones does come in, makes his long-awaited debut for the Rapids, and he does what Jermaine Jones does. He scores a goal,
and he has an assist.
You know, he should have cut down his hair for this game just to replicate what happened against Costa Rica.
That would have been an awesome picture. But he looked even more badass, I think, in this one with the fact that the snow was getting caught in his dreadlocks.
You know what I will say? I've had Zach McMath in goal for me on my fantasy team for the past couple of weeks now, and he's been doing well for me. I know I got to get rid of him soon as Tim Howard comes into the forward. Yeah. But with the way he's playing, you know, Colorado. Now, I don't think you exactly laughed at me, but you were a little surprised when I picked Colorado to make the postseason. Okay.
Pretty sure
I'm feeling very good about that pick.
You are right now.
But and this is one of the reasons, their defense, they have not let in more than a single goal in any game this season. For a defense that was basically a sieve last year, that's impressive. So Pablo Mastroeni somehow has figured something out.
Well, you're seeing places, too, like Dick's Sporting Good Park. They're undefeated at home so far this season, so they're slowly turning in their home ground as a place that's going to be hard to win at also. And at that altitude, it is always hard to win in Denver.
It is. In
any sport.
And I'll tell you what, too, New York Red Bulls, as we said, not quite sure what's going on with them, but a few things to note. They finally ended their scoreless streak at 337 minutes. You have Bradley Wright Phillips on your team. You have Sasha Kleshtin in the midfield. You have Dax McCarty in the midfield. How are you not scoring goals? But kudos to their goalkeeper, Luis Robles. This was 113 straight matches that he has played 90 minutes, full games.
It's a new MLS record, too,
it is.
I believe. So congratulations to him. Looking forward, RSL took down Vancouver 1-0 in this one. RSL proving once again that they are pretty much the best team. They're the only team to have not lost a game this season. They've played 10 total games. They've played 6 total games. They've got 4 wins and 2 draws. They sit in second place overall. And they did it against a Vancouver team that we thought was going to be much better, but finds themselves with 1 point.
I have to say this. You look at the standings in the West right now, it's a bit surprising. All the Cascadia teams sitting behind that red line.
Yeah.
Portland, Seattle, Vancouver.
It's very interesting to see how quickly the tides change, especially with how hot Houston started the season.
Right.
Now they find themselves on the bottom of the Western Conference. Seattle, speaking of a Cascadia team, they got a victory over the Philadelphia Union, but nobody cares because Jordan Morris scored, so that's all the media world cares about. So go ahead and continue to hype train about that.
Well, listen, this is a good win for Seattle.
It was against a good Philadelphia Union team.
They started the season on a 3-game winless streak, and now they're on a 3-game unbeaten streak. Yes, Jordan Morris gets his goal, but this Philly team has been looking good this season. CJ Sapong has been playing out of his mind lately. Of course, he didn't score in this game. Sebastian Letou did. But this
a week after I drop him in fantasy. Well done, Sebastian.
But this Philadelphia team, they've been playing some exciting soccer lately.
Sure.
They know how to move the ball. Seattle was struggling. Now, Chad Marshall, out of all the players to lead Seattle in scoring, Chad Marshall with 2 goals. This week and last week.
Yeah.
So
I don't know what to think
Marshall.
exactly about for Seattle right now. I think they still need to get a lot of things figured out going forward. But a win's a win for them, and now they get to move up the standings a little bit. They're in 8th place now with 7 points. They're 2, 3, and 1 overall. So we'll see what happens with them going forward. Portland, Simon, they got a nice victory, 3-1 over a very good San Jose team as well.
Yes, a surprise victory in our eyes, at least.
I would agree with that. I don't think either of us picked.
We did. We both picked.
We both picked San Jose.
We both picked San Jose. Chris Wondolowski, of course, getting another goal off a PK this time. But Adi was playing tremendously well. I'm sorry, what was I? Lost my train of thought here. I was actually going to start talking about Jack Mack.
Sure.
Jack McInerney. He's scored a couple of goals now for the Timbers on the season. I think he's a guy that, with the injuries that are going on, and now Valeri's out as well, so Porter's got to figure that out.
Ridiculous.
I think Jack Mack, it's time that he starts
You've been
starting his
talking
games.
about that for a couple of weeks now too. So we'll see if that actually happens for Portland, especially with a game like that where they won a good game, and now they've got a double this week as well. So in 2 weeks they have a double.
So I wanted to talk about that first goal there of how Jack Mack once again just what you want in a striker is someone who just knows where to be. But Adi comes on. I hope you played him this week.
No, I caught him.
You did not. 2 goals
because he wasn't producing for me.
Right,
so I cut
2
him.
goals, and he came on as a sub, and we saw Porter do this last year as well, using Adi as a sub. I love that tactic. He comes on for basically 30 minutes or so. Very fresh and big, strong, powerful player, gets in that box and finishes when he's supposed to.
Well, perhaps the one game this weekend that a lot of folks are still buzzing about, especially with all the controversy that we've heard in MLS about what's a yellow card, what's a red card, what's a foul, what's a whatever, what's a penalty kick, the New England Revolution drawing with Orlando City SC.
Yes, they did, and let me tell you, Toledo, the center ref, he was more involved in this game than he needed to be. First of all, he calls for a PK against for Baptista, who did play a decent game, I have to say, but wasn't touched. Goes down easy. Orlando gets a PK.
So
then later in the match, for New England to get their second goal, this is where a lot of the controversy was. We're talking about 6 minutes into stoppage.
There's no reason you should ever have that
actually,
much stoppage
before that, this is how bad the game is. I have to go back and remember this stuff. In the 92nd minute, so 2 minutes into stoppage, it looks like Orlando's going to win this game 2-1 off of a Molino goal. That was a very obvious handball. Molino brings the ball down with his hand and puts it in the goal. Goal shouldn't have been allowed. And then we're looking at, in the 6th minute of stoppage, Orlando has New England's coming down with the ball. Orlando player standing inside the box. It bounces off his arm, and the ref, Toledo, doesn't call for a PK.
No.
And it was his linesman, his assistant ref, that eventually
had
to
to
tell him.
confer about it, too. It was almost like an NFL replay there.
Yeah. And he was 3 yards in the box. There's no reason it wasn't a PK.
So, Lee Wynn steps up and saves the Revolution a little bit, and they're able to convert and score, making it 2-2. So the Revolution now do a little bit of something in the fact that they now still hang out at 5th place in the Eastern Conference standings with 8 total points. They're 1-1-5. They've only lost one game if you're a Revolution fan, so you have to be happy in that regards. But overall, though, you look at what exactly the Revolution have done this season. They're a little bit of underperforming right now, but you also don't want to take away from the fact that they have only lost one game this season. So you have to be happy and within reason if you're a Revs fan this season, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely.
The final game of the weekend was FC Dallas and Sporting Kansas City, a battle between the top 2 teams in the Western Conference. FC Dallas, they're hot right now, Simon. They're real hot, and they proved it once again by beating one of the best teams in Sporting Kansas City.
Yeah,
what do you think about it?
You might be surprised with my power rankings there, Baxter. I'm not sure yet. But yeah, FC Dallas, they can't do much wrong. Yeah, they get a goal scored against them here or there, but they are on fire. When they lose, they don't let it scare them at all. And I got to tell you, we keep talking about Urruti. Of course, you've got your other players in there. But Kellen Acosta for FC Dallas is everywhere on this field.
Sure.
And he's been having a great season as well. And I think that's what we're starting to see is a lot of these guys who've been quietly supporting their teams in a great way are now starting, because they're not named players, you're starting to hear their names more and more.
And that's what you want, I think, at the same time. You want to continue to see who can step up and make the name for yourself, because you're not going to always have your star players available. Someone's going to get injured, someone's going to get international duty. So as a coach, you look down your bench and say, all right, which one of you young ones wants to step up and do good? And we saw that in this game, so good job for them in this game.
Absolutely.
So FC Dallas, they are now the best team in MLS overall with 17 total points. They are 5-1-2 on the season, and they are a clear clear first place right now. RSL right behind them, though, with 14 points if you're looking at it from that perspective. All right, let's look ahead to this week quickly, and then we got to get to a break and then close things up here as well eventually on the show. Montreal and Toronto. Simon, who do you like in this game?
Montreal.
I would agree with you on that one. Philly and NYCFC.
I think it's too easy of a pick, but I'm going to go with Philly on this
one. I thought you were going to go for a draw. I'm trying to play Predict Simon right now as we go through. I'm going to go with NYCFC on this one. Why not? DC and the Revs.
Yeah, this is actually a tough one, but I'm going to take New England.
Okay, as am I. Columbus and Houston.
I'm going to take a draw on this one, Baxter.
Okay. I am going to go with Columbus after their victory. Colorado and Seattle at Colorado.
I'm going to go with Colorado on this.
Why not? Ride the hot hand, and I'll join you for a game or two. We'll see what happens. LA and RSL, a game to definitely keep an eye on this
This
week.
is definitely one, but I'm going to take LA on this one.
Okay, it's in LA, and I'm going to join you on that one as well. Vancouver and FC Dallas.
I'm going to stay with FC Dallas.
Yep, as am I. San Jose and Sporting Kansas City.
I'm going with San Jose.
Okay, I'm going to take SKC on this one. I think they're a little upset about this last week, and they're going to turn things around. New York Red Bulls and Orlando.
Yeah, let me think about this one for a minute. Baxter, you go ahead and do your reasonings.
I think Orlando's going to go, honestly, in this game. The Red Bulls can't put 2 and 2 together right now, and I think Orlando is far superior, at least between the two teams. Not necessarily as a better team overall in MLS, but right now Orlando's the better team.
I completely agree with you. However, this is in New York. For no other reason, I just have a feeling this is the game they're finally going to win. So I'm going to go with New York on this one.
Well,
I got to try to catch up with you. I'm still one game behind you on the overall standings. So I got to pick one wacky pick to hopefully...
Hey, you never know, especially with the way our luck has been this season. Anything is possible. All right, we're going to go to a break. When we come back, VAVEL USA editor Chris Blakely will be here with us to talk about the weekend that was in NWSL action. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Two Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. Hey, and welcome back to another edition of Two Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Baxter Colburn.
And this is Simon Provan.
Hey, Simon, how we doing?
I'm doing great, man. That was a great in-depth conversation we just had with Louis Bennett and Sean Hughes from Marquette University. That was unexpected. Not that the in-depth was unexpected, but just the length that we spoke. But we just didn't want to stop because
exactly. I know. It's one of those interviews where you're just like, I want to keep talking because it was so in-depth, and it was fantastic. We had a great time chatting with them. If you guys ever want to chat with us, too, remember to go and find us on Twitter. You can find us at 2UpFrontSoccer. That's the number 2. And then you can tweet at us at Baxter Colburn and at Simon Provan as well. You can always shoot us an email, 2upfrontsoccer@gmail.com. We love hearing from you guys. We've had some good interaction as well. And I actually got some good interaction over the weekend as I was tweeting a lot about the NWSL opening weekend. And you can definitely feel the fact that everybody was excited that the league is back, and I personally was excited. I had a tri-screen basically going on my laptop. I was watching 4 games at one time, too, because there was USL games going on as well, and MLS kind of took a backseat for me this weekend as I was just really excited to get some NWSL action back in my life, and it was a lot of fun. And with that, though, we are excited to bring in one of the guys that knows a fair amount about the NWSL. He's one of the editors over at VAVEL USA. It is Chris Blakely, a good friend of the show that we love to talk a lot about. And now that he's finally back, we can talk with him as well. So, Chris, hello, sir, and welcome back to the show.
Well, hello, and thanks for having me again. It's been way too long.
It has. We were talking with you off air as well. We talk about you at least once a week. We find a way to work you in the show at least once a week. So you've been with us in spirit, Chris, for many a week. But we're glad to have you back on the program. And I personally have got to ask you right away: is it still raining in Seattle after Sky Blue pulling that incredible upset, or what exactly is the feeling around town after such a surprising fixture opening day?
Well, to answer the question, no. It's a nice 75, no clouds in the sky for a change in Seattle.
Okay.
So
So you finally get to cut your grass with the sun out.
Yeah, right. What's that like?
Yeah. It's a nice improvement. It was a bit of a shock for the fans in attendance. You could tell, they've never seen their team lose at Memorial Stadium. So I believe it was a 24-game unbeaten streak the Reign had going. So, and honestly, the way Sky Blue did it with 6 rookies on the field, that was pretty impressive. Laura Harvey, after the game, she was not happy at all.
Rightfully so.
Exactly, and honestly, she's kind of glad that the unbeaten streak ended. That was one of the first things she said in her press conference, post-game press conference, saying, well, now we don't have to talk about this anymore. And a lot of the other players echoed that same sentiment of, it's done, it's over with, let's get back to actually playing soccer and making it, getting back on track to where they need to be. I
can imagine, yeah. And something like that, losing... and anytime you hear that, we heard that with, even the Golden State Warriors this season as well, too, after they finally were, I think after 24 games when they finally lost to the Milwaukee Bucks, a lot of those guys are like, you know what, great, whatever. It was a fun record, it was a fun thing to do for a while, but we're just glad it's over and we can actually focus on playing the game instead of what the media actually wants us to focus on. And it's, things like this with a team as well known as the Seattle Reign. You talk about all the great players they have on their team as well. I mean, you got ladies like Hope Solo and Megan Rapinoe when she comes back from injury as well. But it's a very long season as well if you're part of the NWSL. So losing opening day is not a reason to freak out and clear the buses and everybody jump off. That's a supporter. And I think Seattle, as an organization, I think will be just fine. And that, you see this happen sometimes, though, too, in opening days. Some teams just are a little bit more hyped about the beginning of the season than others. So I think for Seattle fans, what's the message that they need to kind of take away now going the rest of the season?
Well, it's just like you said, it's not the end of the world. No time to jump off the quote-unquote bandwagon, if you will. They just need to, they need to, obviously hope the girls go out this weekend and bounce back when they play Boston on Sunday. And, just kind of, keep your spirits high because, honestly, as you mentioned, it's the opening weekend. There's still a ton of games left. Last year they started off 1-2, and then they came back and once again became, were the best team in the league until it came to the playoffs. But, it's nothing to worry about. They obviously have some stuff to work on. I've never actually, in my time covering the team, I've actually never seen them. I don't want to say the word play this badly, but they didn't play very well. They were getting torched on the wing with Kelly O'Hara going up and down that left side of the pitch against Ellie Reed. Which she's good at doing, yeah. Yeah, well, exactly. And Ellie Reed usually, she's the right back for the Reign. She's a great defender, and she was just getting torched. But Kelly, she is a U.S. international, and she's great at what she does. Just overall, they just need, the Reign, they kind of seemed out of focus. I'm sure, Laura Harvey will get them back on schedule and get them, get their minds, back the way it needs to be. And hopefully when they play Boston, we'll see the Seattle Reign of old.
Yeah, absolutely. We talk about playing Boston as well. The Washington Spirit took down the Boston Breakers 1-0 on a very early, elaborate bicycle kick as well. And I had the opportunity to watch most of this game, and I forget, when you don't watch a player like Crystal Dunn for a little while and then you watch her again, you forget how fast she actually is. And seeing her with the ball, she has tendencies where she reminds me a little bit of Cristiano Ronaldo with the fact that when she has the ball, she just goes at a defender. And you can just see the defenders kind of freak out for a brief moment because they're like, holy cow, she's going to just burn right by me. And she did that a lot. And she had that opening assist as well. But if you're the Washington Spirit, you knew going against a team like Boston, it wasn't going to be one of those games where you're like, look, we don't, this is a decent team, but we should win. And ladies like Christine Nairn, who we've had on the program as well here before, stepped up and did a good job. And, Washington gets a nice 1-0 victory to open the season for them.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, you're exactly correct on Crystal Dunn. It's getting to, watch her last year in the playoffs against the Reign, and then also when the U.S. national team came up here to scout in October, just seeing how fast she is in person, she just torments that back line all game long. And, I've been watching her for the last year or so with all the international games and NWSL games, and she's a great player. You are right. She, a little bit reminds you of a little bit of Ronaldo on the women's side, obviously.
Sure.
But yeah, I think Washington, they have a coach because Mark Parsons left and went to Portland. I still think they'll be good. They'll probably be in the top 4 when the season ends. They got a good squad.
They do, honestly. Yeah, exactly. And we've talked with Christine before. We've talked with their head coach as well, Jim Gabara, as well, on here on Two Up Front as well. But, you talk about this weekend as a whole. If you want to talk about Seattle losing, obviously that was a big surprise. The other big surprise I'd have to say was probably the defending champs losing to Western New York Flash as well after, I keep name dropping, I'm not trying to, but they just happened to all do well this week. Sam Mewis scoring a goal for the Western New York Flash, a former guest here on Two Up Front as well, sinking FC Kansas City also, in front of a large home crowd for FC Kansas City also.
Yeah, that was a bit of a shock. Unfortunately, I didn't get to watch a lot of the games this weekend, but I was keeping tabs on that and just seeing that they had lost. I wasn't expecting that, especially a team like that with so many veterans on it. They're arguably one of the best defensive teams in the league, and I believe it was 1-0 is what the final score was.
Yep.
So, they only gave up one goal, which isn't a big deal, but still, just to see them kind of struggle a little bit was a shock.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that one.
Yeah, that's one of the things I actually, speaking of goalkeepers, Boston Breakers, they did lose 1-0. Not to keep talking about the rain, because, that's not my habit, but just talking about this upcoming game that they have, Chris, Libby Stout, who's the goalkeeper for Boston, spent a couple years over in Liverpool. She faced 7 shots on goal, only gave up 1, but actually Washington was peppering her, 15 shots overall.
Yeah, Washington controlled the play of that game.
So what does Seattle need to do to get past a goalkeeper of that skill level?
Honestly, they're going to have to do exactly the same thing and just keep peppering the goal. And I know this weekend when they played Sky Blue, that's exactly what they did. But surprisingly, their Sky Blue's rookie goalkeeper, I believe her name's Carolyn Casey, she stepped up huge. Watching her play, you never think she was a rookie. She had a great one-on-one chance with the Reigns' new signing. Milas is her last name. I'm drawing a blank on her first name. I do apologize. But they just need to – Seattle just has to keep doing what they normally do, is just get their midfield involved with Jess Fishlock and Kim Little. And, Keelan Winters, kind of sits in front of the back four and distributes the ball, and they got to get their forwards a little bit more involved. They had Merritt Mathias and Beverly Yanez and Milas. They had a lot of action and time on the ball, but they just really weren't getting any clean shots. So they got to open up some of that space and make Boston's keeper work.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that one. And you talk about rookies not looking like rookies. You have to bring your attention to what the Houston Dash did as they defeated the Chicago Red Stars by a score of 3-1. And the rookie, quote-unquote rookie, Rachel Daly, scoring a goal, a beautiful one-time goal from her, and also assisting a goal as well to lead the Dash 3-1 over the Red Stars. Watching this game, watching how she attacked a U.S. considering the second best goalie on the women's side with Alyssa Nair, she made Alyssa look like she was a freshman in high school. She really embarrassed her a lot the entire night. The Houston Dash, they were almost like a sleeping animal. They conceded an early goal after Kristen Press does what she does best, jumped on an early ball, slotted that ball away. As a forward, you loved, when defenders have a miscommunication like that. But then you saw it continue to build. You saw Daly score a goal. You were able to see Becky score a goal. You saw Carly Lloyd hit a pinpoint header. And all of a sudden, Houston is just off and running. But Rachel Daly, though, is the true story of the week in NWSL. She was voted the player of the week as well. But talk a little bit about what she did, and now that the entire league is kind of looking back at her like, well, now, who are you?
Yeah, I know technically, yes, she's a rookie, but I believe she's 24. She's got plenty of time overseas. She's also part of the England, I believe the U23 team, at least at the time. She might be part of the senior team now. I'm not 100% sure on that. But yeah, she's from the brief highlights I did watch, she's a pretty outstanding player. I think with her, Lloyd, and a couple other players, Houston might be a team to watch out. They're trying to make the playoffs. They've never made it in their previous 2 years. Mm-hmm. So with her and Lloyd and all those other players, I think they're a team to really, consider and be on the lookout for, because they look dangerous, especially a team that has Carly Lloyd on it. They're going to be dangerous anyways.
Oh, exactly.
But when you add
that is very true.
Yeah, and when you add somebody like Rachel Daly and all the other players on their team, it just makes them even more and more dangerous.
Exactly. No, I completely agree with you on that one. Daly definitely took over that game. And the one other game that we need to talk about as well, the Portland Thorns and Orlando Pride, the game that a lot of folks were excited about because it's the new season for the Portland Thorns after not having the best finish last year, but then it was the new expansion team in Orlando Pride as well, and leave it to Portland to come from behind to secure a victory, a 2-1 victory.
Well, and one of the big things about this match was the Alex Morgan trade in the offseason.
Yes.
So Alex Morgan facing her former team. And Portland does come out on top 2-1. And, talk about great crowds. Another great crowd in Portland, over 16,000 fans. It was the largest crowd for a home opener for Portland. Long name. Chris, can you say this name for us? Dagny Bjorn Jarstador?
I was hoping you wouldn't ask me because we'll
call her Dagny. We'll call her Dagny, yeah.
I did, I was reading one of our writers on our website, he did the recap, and I saw that name, and I was like, there is no way in heck I'm even going to try to pronounce it because I don't want to do her any injustice.
That's one of those things where you try to run it through spell check, and you're like, well, maybe it's not. Maybe that is how it's spelled. I don't know exactly. It's like maybe you pushed a few too many keys trying to spell like Brian or something. It's like, nope, that's exactly what it is.
Was saying it's spelled wrong, so
yeah, exactly. Even if it's spelled wrong, none of us would know, honestly. But if you're Orlando, though, I mean, you got to be fairly happy with how the game went. You were tied 1-1 going into halftime, and then you give up that late goal. You look ahead, though, if you're Orlando now, they were going to try to fill the bowl as well, like what we saw from the Orlando City as well. Are you defusing a bomb, Chris, right now, or what exactly are you doing while you're talking to us?
Sorry, I'm sitting in my car here taking a break at work. And I was
just making sure you're all right.
No,
you're fine. Just making sure we're not interrupting some more important work right now.
No, you're fine. Sorry about that.
No, not a problem at all. So, I mean, you look ahead for Orlando, though. This is a team that I wrote about last week, saying that offensively they certainly have enough ladies on their team to be dangerous. Defensively, I'm a little concerned about what they've got as a team going forward, but Orlando, the way that this NWSL is set up, I think they have an opportunity to do well, but you also talk about, teams like Seattle, teams like Portland, and then Houston really asserting themselves has to make you wonder just if Orlando's going to have a chance to make the playoffs in their inaugural season or not.
I think we may have lost them.
I don't know. Did we finally lose them again?
Yeah, it'll be tough for them. All right, can you hear me?
You're good. You're good. Keep going.
Hello?
You're good. We got you. Hello.
Okay. Yeah, any expansion, I'm still here. Yeah, it's hard for any expansion team to, get off and starting, but when you have players like Alex Morgan on there, I mean, that does help. The 10-team league and only 4 teams make it, so, I mean, it won't be easy, but, they're going to have that great home field advantage down at the Citrus Bowl, so it'll be exciting to see what they can do.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree with you on that one. All right, Chris, well, before we let you go, one other thing that's exciting, the NWSL Championship has officially been announced that it will be in Houston at BBVA Compass Stadium, October the 9th. Talk about a beautiful venue to play in, that's for sure. What did you think about the announcement coming out of Houston that they will be hosting the tournament?
It's good because it's in another Major League Soccer stadium. I'm just a little bit, because obviously the Dynamo have essentially own the Dash, and the same with Portland and with their Timbers and the Thorns. But I think it's good. It's like you said, it's a great stadium. It's large. The field looks when it's not raining, the field looks great. It doesn't get watered down like it did last year when Seattle played down there. But it's good for the league because, it brings in a lot of people. Looks good on TV. Obviously that's what Fox Sports and the league care about. They want to make sure everything looks nice and pretty on TV for their worldwide audience. But, I'm a little afraid that they're just going to kind of keep bouncing back and forth between MLS cities, even though it's an NWSL league, but like last year they put it in Portland with an MLS team. This year, Houston with an MLS team. Who knows, next year it might be in Orlando with an MLS team. I'm kind of worried about that, but I also understand, when they had the championship game, they won it in a nice big stadium. You don't want it to, no offense to Memorial Stadium here in downtown Seattle, but it's horrible for TV lines. The field is atrocious, as much as I hate to say that, but it is what it is. And then you have some of the other teams that are play on fields that only have a capacity of 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people. So it makes sense for them to go to larger venues, and it's good for the league in the end.
Yeah, I agree.
But I do see what you're saying, though. At the same time, you do want your own identity, and not always have to be linked up to an MLS stadium.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, too, you need to realize that for the women's games, they're not going to build soccer-specific stadiums just for these women's teams, unfortunately.
Not yet, right.
And maybe they will down the road, but you saw the Red Stars, they're transferring after playing at a college campus on a converted football field, basically. Now they're going to Toyota Field or Toyota Park, so they're going to play the same place the Chicago Fire play as well. So we're seeing that transition over where they want to be in more distinguished stadiums. But at the end of the day, though, what exactly is it going to end up happening? We'll see going forward. So, all right, well, Chris, we appreciate you taking time with us here on Two Up Front. Always a pleasure, and we look forward to speaking with you again in the future, sir. So thanks for taking some time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I enjoyed it, and hopefully I'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely.
Sounds good. Thanks, Chris.
Chris Blakely, one of the editors over at VAVEL USA. Go and check out their work at VAVELusa.en.us and see all the great soccer stuff that they have there. We're going to run to a break. When we come back, more MLS action for you here on Two Up Front. Don't miss it. Back with more on Sports Radio America right after this. And welcome back inside the studio for another edition of Two Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Baxter Colburn.
And I'm Simon Provan.
All right, Simon, some news and notes really fast from around the world of soccer. Bayern Munich inking the man, the myth, the legend, Manuel Neuer for another couple seasons until 2021, a new 5-year deal.
And he's 30, so that takes him to 35. And, of course, that's the great thing about goalkeepers is longevity. Oh, my goodness.
Longevity.
Longevity.
Yes.
Longevity. He's 30, so really for a goalkeeper, he's just entering his prime. So I like this move. I think this is a great move.
I think this is a fantastic move.
Especially since he was being looked at by Manchester City. There were rumors of that going around.
With Joe Hart, though, it's kind of weird that they would look at that.
Well, you know how it is with these bigger teams.
They're always
these huge pockets.
They're all shifting people around. And
if you've got somebody who's just a tad bit better, sure, go ahead and spend the $90 million transfer fee.
So stupid. A couple other things really fast. Atlanta United unveils a new exciting plan for their training complex. It looks like we're going to be in England or something because of how beautiful this place looks. I mean, we're looking at renderings of it right now, and it is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, $60 million being called the best training complex in MLS when it's completed. Only 3 fields, so that's a little surprising for me. But you look at the building, it's also not just for their MLS team, it's for their youth academy set up. And I believe that every team at every age level will have their own locker room.
Wow. That's fantastic. Atlanta is doing it right, though. They're taking a little extra time to get into the league, so that way they come in as almost like they've been there for a long time.
They are doing everything right except for their logo and their name.
And I'm hoping that they bring in the right players, though, too. That's great that their off-the-field product is going to be so fluid, but can they compete? At the end of the day, that's how a club will be judged in MLS.
Osario, who is coaching the Mexican national team right now, he coached Carlos Bocanegra, and he had come out and said, I think he coached him for Chivas USA. And was it New York as well? No, Carlos played with Chicago. Anyways, he was very complimentary of Atlanta having Carlos there as their sporting director.
We'll see what happens with that. I mean, he's a good guy to have, too. I mean, Atlanta promises a world-class training facility, so we'll see what happens with that. One other news, that thing I want to get your opinion on, Don Garber, the commissioner, saying, I was just kidding about that whole 20 teams by 2020. I want to have 28 teams now.
28 teams.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I'm not...
I think it was 24, by the way, by 2020, so that's my fault for that.
Soccer is unique in that there won't be a player pool that's diluted by this because the player pool is international. Now, it's not as international as the Premier League because you're not spending that kind of money. But there's plenty of players in South America that still want to come and play in MLS. There's plenty of players in Central America. And you still have players over in Europe that they may not be Premier League level, but right. My concern is really just the rate of expansion. That was one of the things that Garber said coming in year 5 of MLS, that we're not going to do the NASL thing, the original NASL thing, and expand too quickly. Now, difference there is a structure set in place.
Yes.
The difference there is that they're looking for owners with pockets and who are committed. The difference is they're looking for owners who are going to build soccer-specific stadiums. So there's a lot of differences. So it's not a apples-to-apples thing. But what would frustrate me is if I'm a coach in MLS every season I'm looking at losing players to the expansion draft.
Yeah, and that's one thing I don't like about it is the expansion draft, honestly. And we'll see. I mean, you talk about places like San Antonio, they're making a big push to get an MLS team. You look at in the USL side, I believe it's FC Cincinnati is who they are. They had 20,000 people at a USL game when they took on Nashville.
Record crowd
FC.
for a USL game.
I know Nashville wants a team. I know Cincinnati's talking about it.
Well, Sacramento's going to get a team. That's pretty much been said.
Sacramento is going to blow up as a city if they do not get an MLS team.
Yeah, they will.
They will.
Yeah, if there's one team if there's one city that
there are teams
earns it and deserves
that are trying to connect the vast expanse that is America. Those are at least 5 big cities that will get it. All right, one more break. When we come back, Power
St.
Rankings,
Louis as well,
I believe, and we'll wrap things up here on another 2 Up Front, right here on Sports Radio America. Welcome back to another edition of 2 Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Baxter Colburn.
And I'm Simon Provan.
All right, Simon, let's power rank this baby up and get out of here.
Sounds great.
Sorry, I'm so excited. Power rankings. I'm actually really excited to eat. I'm so hungry. Anyway, but if you're hungry to listen to us, we encourage you to listen to us on Fridays at sportsradioamerica.com and on the TuneIn app from 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. You can hear interviews this week with Marquette University head coach and assistant coach Louis Bennett and Sean Hughes, and also VAVEL USA soccer editor Chris Blakely. Also, Power Rankings, Simon, go.
Power Rankings. I've got, I don't want to say my beloved, but they're kind of like my little child.
I'm going to have to buy you a jersey at some point.
I told you
year.
I've got a shirt already, but
a jersey's always better.
I can't sport another team's colors that's in the Western Conference. That's wrong. Anyways, Colorado Rapids is my number 5.
Okay.
They've been playing well. They've been beating good teams.
Sure.
They're on a 2-game win streak at this point.
Sure.
1 loss on the year. Mm-hmm. They are surprising a lot of people. Other teams are starting to fear the Colorado Rapids.
Fear the Rapids. I like it. LA Galaxy coming at my number 5. Colorado was actually my 4 that you previously mentioned. LA, they've been that 4-1 victory over a team. Even though I know Houston is the quote-unquote worst team in the Western Conference, Houston still has a lot of big guns on their team that were silenced because LA just looked that much more dominant.
Well, and on top of that, Baxter, I've got LA as my number 4. They've beaten San Jose 3-1. They drew with Vancouver in a scoreless draw. They drew with Portland 1-1. And then, as you mentioned, their 4-1 win. They're on a quietly, I keep using that word a lot today, but I think it really does describe a lot what's going on in the league. Quietly on a 4-game unbeaten streak. So I've got LA as my number 4.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, Colorado's my number 4.
No, I'm sorry. I jumped ahead. I've got Seattle as number 4. Why Seattle? As I said, going back to this quietly statement, 3-game unbeaten streak.
That's what you want right now, honestly.
And it started with against a very good Montreal team, 1-0. Then they tied Houston 1-1, and then they beat a good Philly team this last week. So I'm starting to have a little belief in those Sounders.
Yeah, well, not so quiet has been RSL and FC Dallas, and they actually are both round out our top 2 respectively. We both have RSL at number 2. They've yet to lose a game this season. They drew, and then they've won the last 3. If you're RSL, a very, very good program overall. You talk about Plata and Burrito and Marcisian, and you've got guys like Nick Armando in goal. This is a good program overall. I mean, Javier Morales, Kyle Beckerman, a couple older guys, but they still are producing at a high level.
They are, and so people may be wondering, well, why do you have RSL at 2 and FC Dallas at 1? Part of it is watching them play. RSL is much more patient.
Blows everybody out of the water.
And they also are on a 6-game unbeaten streak. They've played more games than anybody else in the league at this point. And the teams they're beating, granted DC United and Columbus, but the teams they're taking on are quite good. Sporting, Portland. Now look, Portland's not been that great, but Portland loses 1-3, then comes back and beats San Jose 3-1. There's more to Portland than meets the eye.
Agreed.
Drawing with good teams like San Jose and Columbus. And again, beating Montreal 2-0. So FC Dallas, if we were to have RSL and FC Dallas in the Western Conference Final today, my pick would be FC Dallas.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that one. All right, moving on to our last part of the show. All right, Simon, your I believe as we get out of here.
I believe, maybe it's more of a hope, that the NCAA opens their eyes and realizes that soccer is a different animal. It needs to be a year-long thing, specifically a year-long thing, where there are competitive games being played. through both semesters.
I like it. I believe that I need to ask Louis Bennett and Sean Hughes to record a voicemail for me because they have fantastic accents. I think that just listening to those, I mean, maybe it's just one of those American things where I'm just sitting here listening to guys with accents like, oh, this is so fun.
You know, Baxter, as you were on the way over, I have to say, we had a cool conversation
Did you?
before the show that had nothing to do with soccer.
Wow.
It was all about...
They're real people.
Ireland and the Troubles and royalty in England, and it was
Down with
awesome.
the king. I love it. No, they don't have a king in England. Anyway.
Queen.
The Queen. Love the Queen. She's a nice lady. She looks a lot like my grandma, actually.
Is that right?
She does. Fun fact. All right. Well, we're gonna head out. Thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of Two Up Front. Special thanks to Marquette University men's soccer head coach Louis Bennett and his assistant Sean Hughes for joining us today, and also for VAVEL USA soccer editor Chris Blakely for joining us as well. We want to hear from you guys. Let us know what your thoughts are about the show. You can find us on social media.
Facebook, 2 Up Front. On Twitter, we are at 2 Up Front Soccer. He is at Baxter Colburn. I'm at Simon Provan. Check out our webpage, 2upfrontsoccer.wix.com/2upfrontsoccer. And email us, 2upfrontsoccer@gmail.com.
Yes, indeed. And you can find us anytime, anywhere. Just get a hold of us. We love you. We'd love to hear from you guys. Thank you so much for your support. Fridays, 2 to 5 Eastern on Sports Radio America, sportsradioamerica.com, and on the TuneIn app, and on demand anytime on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and on Spreaker. He's Simon Provan. I'm Baxter Colburn. With our manager being the one above, we are 2 Up Front.